Not that I expect this to happen, but anyone engaging in disrespectful behavior will be removed from the room and they will not be permitted to re-enter. I also would like everyone to know that you are muted currently, and I'm going to go through the list in a minute and make sure everyone's video is off. For right now, the chat function is disabled. We find that so much of the questions that students ask, they actually get answered as we move through the session. And so we've got the chat function disabled right now. Once it's time for questions, we will let you know, and I will invite questions, you know, when it's time, when it's the appropriate time, sorry. The other thing is all of the chat is publicly visible and you can't chat privately with others. So that's the whole housekeeping things that I wanted to mention. I think we'll kind of dive right in. Maybe, yeah, I'll just head into this one and just tell you a little bit about the First Year Center. So we are the only office on campus at the U of M that specializes specifically in helping students transition into their first year of studies. We have lots of great people who are available to help. Sorry, I just want to admit a few more people into the room here. There we go. So we have lots of people who are available to help new students. We have registration advisors, and the registration advisors are there to assist you with your actual registration, not the decision making around the registration, but like what are you clicking and how do you click on things and what if you get an error? That's what the registration advisors are here to help you with. We also have a team of academic advisors, and they're the ones who help with the decision making. You can see in the chat, Tina is saying hi, she's an advisor. She's awesome. We also have Gretchen in the room as well. She's an academic advisor in the First Year Center, and smart and lovely. There she is. There's Gretchen. And of course, Liza will finish off the presentation after I stop rambling on about whatever I'm rambling on about. So again, we have academic advisors who are here, even though we are remote, right? Even though you're at home and we're not on campus and, you know, we don't get to meet you face to face, we definitely want you to know that we have advisors here who can help you with the decision making, with, you know, any challenges that you may face as you transition and you get yourself registered for courses. Through the school year, we also have lots of stuff going on. Academic advising takes place from our office. You know, if you're unsure of where you want to head in the future, those kinds of things, what courses to take for the upcoming terms, the academic advisors will assist you through all of those things as well. We also offer workshops, study skills, time management. The lovely Gretchen is one of the wonderful ladies who will offer that session. So we've got lots of help available. Again, remember, if you have questions, please hang on to those. We will make sure at the end of the session that all of your questions are answered. And thanks for listening to me. Take it away, Liza.
Thank you, Ali. Hello to everybody. I'm Liza. I work in the First Year Center with, as Ali said, our team of advisors. So I'm really thankful that you've decided to spend your afternoon with us. I think you're going to find this presentation, or I hope that you find this presentation useful and really starts you on your way to planning successfully for your first year. We certainly know that you have a lot of questions at this time of year. And so this Get Ready to Register series has really been designed to answer those questions. We do find in our work with students sort of at your stage right now, on the cusp of your first year, there are a few steps that sometimes get overlooked, but absolutely must be done before you can even begin to answer that, you know, top of mind question, which is which courses should I be taking in my first year? And this slide here really highlights two of those steps. First one is to accept your offer of admission. Some students may still be waiting for an offer of admission. I would encourage you to continue to check the email address that you applied to the U of M with. Any decisions regarding your admission will be sent to that email address, and then it will direct you to go back to your application portal, where then hopefully you will see an offer waiting. Really important step that some students miss is to go down to the bottom of that application, or rather that offer, and to press accept. We really need you to accept that offer of admission, because then you are formally welcomed into our community, and the next steps really start to flow from there. So please, any questions that you might have related to your admission, I've included the admissions office email address here for you. If you don't have time to write that down, not to worry, just go to the General University of Manitoba website, Google admissions office, very, very easy to find. But to Ali's point, they are the best people to be able to address your admission-specific questions. Once you've accepted your offer of admission, then the next important thing that we need you to do is to claim your UMNet ID. So what is your UMNet ID? It really is your access to the University of Manitoba's online systems. If we were on campus, it would be your access to campus Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, we're not there at the moment, but it is access to your dedicated University of Manitoba student email account. Once you accept your offer of admission, we and everyone else on campus, including your professors, will only be able to communicate with you via your university email. So again, incredibly important that you go and claim that university email and begin to check it regularly. Important information will be sent to this address, and especially in the virtual world that we're living at the moment, even more important to stay on top of your email. The other thing that your UMNet ID will give you access to is something called Learn. That's our online learning management system. It's really where you are going to probably participate this year in many of your classes, all of them, frankly. Some of you may be using an online learning management system right now in high school to finish up your courses. This is where you might view lectures from your teachers. It's where you might be submitting assignments. It might be where you're getting notes. Again, same idea here with us at the University of Manitoba. Our system is called Learn. So once you've accepted your offer, you've claimed your UMNet ID, then you really are well positioned to begin to start course planning for your first year. And that course planning takes place in the first year planning guide. Before you can sort of begin to course plan, and once we do get into the first year planning guide, you're going to see that there is a certain sort of process or certain steps that you must follow in planning successfully for your first year. And I've laid those steps out here for you on this slide. I promise you that if you follow these steps in the order in which we've sequenced them, you will undoubtedly really be successful in planning for your first year. You know, like any plan, plans take time. It definitely is a process, and what the Get Ready to Register sessions that we're going to offer today and beginning in a couple of weeks are really going to walk you through these steps. So once you've accepted your offer of admission, today's presentation is going to really highlight how you go about selecting your program or programs of choice. Then we're going to take you sort of to step 3, which would be how to go about choosing your courses. After that, you're able to work to create a customized timetable. And then finally, you get to the very end, which is registering for your classes. That is, in fact, really the easiest part of this entire process and the least time consuming. These 3 steps in the middle really are where you're going to spend the bulk of your planning and the bulk of your decision making. And like we know, with all decisions, it takes time. And with good decision making, you need good information. And so that's why we have, and when I say we, it's a royal we, it's we in the First Year Center, have put together something called the First Year Planning Guide. We work every year with our colleagues in all faculties on campus, as well as the admissions office, to ensure that students such as yourselves have all of the information that you need to successfully plan for your first year. Everything that you need to know beginning today all the way through to your registration date is contained within the guide. So I promise you, you need to go nowhere else other than here to the First Year Planning Guide. The guide itself can be accessed in a couple of ways. It does have a dedicated URL, and that is umanitoba.ca/first year. I've included it on the slide here today for you. If I click on this, it's actually going to take me directly to its homepage here on the University of Manitoba website. It's the First Year Planning page. It's home to the First Year Planning Guide. It's also home to some other information that I think you might find useful as a first year student. So please, I encourage you to start doing some exploration on our website. But for the purposes of today, I'm coming here so that I can access the guide. The guide is offered in 2 platforms, one as a PDF and the other as a flipbook. If I click on the flipbook, it's going to take me here to this most recent version, the 2020-2021 first year planning guide. As we move through the guide, I'm actually just going to turn my video off. I just don't want to run into any connection issues, but I certainly will return back on video in a little bit after we've gone through the guide. So the guide itself is completely interactive. If I use the arrow on the far right-hand side, you'll see that it flips, much like, say, a magazine or a textbook. What I will say to you is please read this and use it like a textbook, not like a magazine. We really need you to be using the guide in the same way that you might use your textbook to prepare for a final exam. Lots of preparation, lots of reading, possibly rereading, maybe even taking some notes. Really, this process is going to take days, not minutes or hours. It is somewhat time intensive, but I promise if you follow the steps as I've laid out earlier, you definitely will come to this endpoint feeling confident that you've made the best decisions for yourself. So the guide really does start laying out this timeline again for you. And the table of contents really help to support and provide information that are going to allow you to successfully complete these steps. First section is related to first year planning. Second section of the guide is sort of that question that I think is on everyone's mind today, which is what are the courses that I need to take in my first year? So we'll certainly review that. We will spend some time taking a look at an introductory course guide. For those of you that may need some information on upgrading high school courses, we certainly do have a section in the guide for that. And then we sort of end the guide with an important dates and deadline. So this is also going to be a really critical spot in the guide that you spend some time taking a look at. You will, as a university student, be responsible for all of the important upcoming dates and deadlines. So again, everything that you need here is in the guide. We've designed it to be interactive. Anything bolded or underlined will take you directly to that spot in the guide, so you can easily flip back and forth with ease. And this is really why I like the flippable version the most. If we start to move through the guide, you'll see that we are sort of hit initially with a page that's going to walk us through how to use the guide. That's really what I'm going to be doing today in this live session, but if after the session today you feel like you need a bit of a refresher, not to worry, the guide really reinforces a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. The first page where I want to spend a little bit of time is the definitions page. Here at the university, like many universities, we sort of have a language of our own. We use terminology that might be unfamiliar to you, and as you're reading through the guide, you might come across a definition that you are uncertain of the meaning. Please reference back to this definitions page, as we've really tried to capture some of the most important terms that we think you need to know as a new first year student. There are 2 sections here on the definitions page that I really want to draw everyone's attention to today, and I want to do that because I find in our work with first year students, this tends to be the area that leads to the most confusion, and that is related to the mathematics and written requirements. Here at the University of Manitoba, all students who complete a degree must at some point along the completion of that degree complete one 3-credit-hour course that has a significant amount of written English, and one 3-credit-hour course that has a significant amount of mathematics. Is there just one course that fulfills these? Absolutely not. There's probably 50 courses that fulfill these requirements. So you do have a lot of choice and flexibility as to which course you would like to take to fulfill this requirement. One of the biggest pieces of confusion I find is that many first year students believe that they must take their written and their math course in their first year, and that just isn't true. Whether or not you need to do your math or your writing course in your first year will really be determined by the program that you are targeting. So if your program says that you must do it for admission, then absolutely it's something that you're going to have to plan for sooner than later. But many programs we find embed these courses within their degree programs. So as long as you do it within your first few years, you'll certainly be fine. We will address this more specifically when we start taking a look at sorry, I just moved myself off, when we start taking a look more specifically at some programs. As we flow through, we'll see that the next section that I think is worth noting is our course planning basics section. Here really is where I think we need to spend a little bit of time, because before you can actually plan for courses, you need to know how our courses are designed. Here at the U of M, we offer courses in 2 different terms. We offer them in a fall and winter term, and we reference that as our regular academic session. Within those 2 terms, you have the ability to take up to 5 courses per term. And our courses have a credit hour value, whether it be 3 or 6. Many courses that you will be taking will be worth 3 credit hours, and those courses will run over a singular term only. So you may begin it in September and it will end in December. You would complete that course in fall term and you would earn 3 credit hours worth of coursework. We do have some popular first-year courses, which actually are called SPAND courses, and those are courses that are worth 6 credit hours in value. They will begin at the beginning of fall, so the beginning of September, and then they will end at the end of the winter term, spanning the entire year. Upon completion of that course, you will earn 6 credit hours in value of that course. Do you need to take 5 courses per term? Absolutely not. There are going to be lots of different considerations for you to think about over the next several weeks. It's important, I think, for you to start to think about some of the commitments that you have outside of school. And this is what the next section of the planning guide is really going to ask you to think about. When trying to determine how many courses you take, certainly your program may determine that. Many programs on campus do require that a student minimally take 24 credit hours to be eligible to apply to their program. So that would be a 4-course model per term. Some of you may be applying for student loans. Some of you may have received scholarship. Oftentimes those external funding sources do ask that you maintain a certain course load. So again, keep that in mind when you're deciding how many courses to take. And really be honest about your outside commitments. Do you have a part-time job? Do you have high extracurricular activity? If so, you're really going to want to consider and think about whether or not taking a maximum course load, which would be 5 courses per term, resulting in 30 credit hours by the end of the year, whether or not that's actually the best fit for you to be successful in those courses that you are taking this year. Please do note that here at the University of Manitoba, we will call you a full-time student at the point in which you complete 3 courses per term. So whether you do 3, 4, or 5 courses per term, and we sort of reinforce that down here, you will be considered a full-time student. So if I go to the next remaining sections in the first year planning section, these we're not going to address today. Beginning June 22nd, we're offering the final Get Ready to Register session, or rather series. And that's really going to walk you through how you create a customized timetable and then ultimately register for your courses. Once you have attended those sessions, I'm confident that you'll be well prepared. However, it's just important for you to know that the guide certainly does provide you with support and instructions on how to move through those remaining 2 steps in our steps to register for classes. So we get to probably the big section of the guide that we're going to spend a lot of time in today, and that's sort of section number 2, and that's which courses do I take in first year. When you come to this section, you're going to see that we've provided you a really nice index, and that index will highlight all of the faculties and all programs available here at the University of Manitoba. So these are all of the opportunities that you as a U of M student have access to. I really encourage you to use this index page to do some exploration if you are in that phase at the moment. And even if you've fully decided on what you want, it's not uncommon for first year students to change their mind. And in fact, you know, many institutions encourage that. Our role, we see in many ways, is to sort of expose you to subjects and disciplines that you've, you know, never been exposed to before. So exploration and changing your mind is certainly something that we support, and it's never seen as something that is, you know, negative in any way. This index contains a list of all of the programs. If I were to click on any one of these programs, it will take me to a dedicated program page, a program planning page. All of the information that you will need to plan for that program is going to be contained on that program planning page, whether it is the information that you need about admission, whether or not you need to do a writing or a math course, and any specific high school prerequisites that you may need to complete that. So for the purposes of this session, I'm going to be spending some time today taking a look at business, in particular the Asper School of Business. I know that to be the faculty. I could certainly go down and find business here under the list of programs as well. Once I click on it, it's going to actually take me directly to the faculty page, and it's going to provide me with all of the information that I need to plan my courses for year one, if this is the particular faculty that I'm looking to get into. Now, if the Asper School of Business is not your target program, I need to say to you, please do not tune out. It really is important for you to know that how I'm going to demo choosing your courses using the Asper School of Business as the example is exactly the same way you would do it for any other program listed in the guide, whether that be agribusiness, kinesiology, rec management. Each and every program is laid out exactly the same. So a lot of times we have students asking, you know, but what about my program? The way in which I'm going to walk you through this is exactly the way that you're going to do it for your specific target program. So if we take a look, just sort of a brief overview of what each of these program planning pages look like, right at the top, we're going to provide you with a link directly to sort of an overview page. So if you are in that exploration phase at the moment, you want to learn a little bit more about what the business school has to offer, you can click on this and we take you to a dedicated web page that provides you with some additional information. Each page will also then next contain a first year courses chart. It will then be followed up by a gray admission box. Then if we move over onto page 2, every program planning page will have a tips for choosing courses box. We have identified and provided you a quick snapshot of what are the high school 40S courses that I need to be able to complete year one of this program. We give you information on how you can apply to this program. We sort of set expectations on what minimum time to graduate might be, letting you know how large the degree is. So most degrees on campus are comprised of 120 credit hours of courses. And then we end the page with a link to the actual business school website. So again, no need to leave the guide in any way, no need to go to any additional sources. We've really covered off everything that we think you may need to know at this time regarding your target program. So for the purposes of putting together our course plan for business, there are going to be 3 main sections of this page that I'm going to highlight, and they would be the 3 main sections that you would use with your program of choice as well. And those are the first year courses chart, the admission box, and the tips for choosing courses section. The first year courses chart for all programs will highlight a full first year in that particular program. All of these courses are detailed in sequence, and as you can see, they are bolded and allow me to click on and takes me directly to the academic calendar where I can find more information about the course description, as well as any possible prerequisites, whether it be a high school prerequisite or a university level prerequisite. Here we'll see if we're looking at Economics 1020, Introduction to Macroeconomics. We will see if I read along. There's actually no prerequisite to this particular course, so I'm good to go whether I did a specific 4DS course or not to take this course in my first year, and nor do I need to have any other university level course to take this course as well. So that's really an important piece, and I can't stress enough how important it is to read the course description for each and every one of the courses that are included in the first year courses box. Now, if you were a student who knew absolutely I want to get into the Asper School of Business after next year, then you're going to follow what is in the first year courses chart, and you're going to course plan to take all courses included in this box. What we do find, however, is that, you know, some students—
Sorry, Liza, I'm just going to jump in one sec. You mentioned that if you are a student who wants to get into Asper, that this would be the plan that you would follow. But if you've already been admitted to the Asper,
if you've already been admitted, then absolutely, like, this is year one of the degree program. So whether you are trying to get into Asper or you are a current newly admitted Asper student, these are the courses that you will be planning to take in your first year. You're going to see that in this particular chart, we've only actually listed 24 credit hours, and I'm going to address that in a moment because we're going to see hidden down here 6 additional credit hours. So if you are a student that wants to take a full 30, we will sort of address that in a moment. But yes, the first year courses chart highlights and details a full first year in that degree program. So if you're already in the program, this is the chart that you would be following. It's really important, though, to never overlook the admission box and the tips for choosing courses box, especially if you are a student who, again, is thinking about Asper, but you're not 100% sold. Maybe you're trying to balance a couple of options and you want to keep as many doors open as possible. This admission box will really set your expectations in terms of what it is that you need to take to minimally be eligible to apply to Asper by the end of your first year. We do find that some programs are quite flexible in their admission and don't necessarily need you to take a full first year of the degree program. We see that Asper probably isn't an example of that. They're a fairly you know, prescribed program, and we see that because admission to Asper actually requires 24 graded credit hours of courses, and these are the courses that are listed in the chart above. So if you are a student who wants to get into Asper, you too also need to take each and every course that is listed in the first year courses chart to be eligible to apply at the end of your first year. We do see a little note down here if you are a student that is looking to take a full 30, so you've done a good assessment of your time and you feel that you have the ability to take a full 30, then there are some recommendations down here of courses that you could take to additionally bring you up to that 30 credit hour mark. Students who are looking for additional guidance in terms of choosing your courses for your first year specific to your program will definitely want to take a look at the tips for choosing courses box as well. And the reason being is that it's going to provide you with even more guidance in terms of which courses may be in your best interest to take, especially if you have a program that is quite flexible for admission. We know here that Asper isn't necessarily, but they still certainly give you a lot of really good information as it relates to choosing your courses, and especially some of the courses where you have some options. And I'm going to start to address that right away. Before I do that, I think we're sort of ready to start maybe putting some courses down on paper and sort of give you an idea of what this looks like, because this really is what you're going to, at the end of this session, be doing with your dedicated program planning page. We've actually created a fillable course planning sheet, and I will have Ali share this link with all of you in the chat at some point where
I just shared it in the chat. It's there right now.
Perfect. And for those of you that, you know, miss it in the chat, not to worry, you can go to the first year planning website. We do actually include a link to it here as well. So again, if you missed it in the chat, not to worry, there's still access on our webpage for you to find it. This really replaces the pen and paper, sort of, you know, back in the our non-virtual days, but because we're all working virtually here, we've designed a fillable PDF for you. This is really going to be helpful to you as you put your plan together, and it's also going to be helpful to any advisor who you might be working with after you've put your course plan together. So this is why we've included your name and your student number and your ability to put in your target program for the purposes of today. I'm looking to get into ASPR. It also reinforces some of those points that we talked about as it relates to course planning. So how many courses you need to have to maintain full-time student status. So if I remember from our first year courses chart, just to go back and do a quick little review, it looks like we need 2 economics courses. Looks like there's a calculus, a statistics, and then we've got some open categories that we're going to talk a little bit more about. When I read both of the economics course descriptions, it didn't tell me that I needed to take any course prior to the other, so I can certainly take these in a fall or winter term. It's really up to me. I don't think that I want to do 2 economics courses in the same term, so I think I'm going to split these out, and I'm going to do one in the fall and one in the winter term. But again, if I wanted to do both in the same term, I certainly could do that. If I go back to the chart, I'm going to see that the next course up for me to consider is calculus. Now, here's a great example of you needing to fulfill 3 credit hours worth of a calculus course. You'll see in the chart, it also tells you what the credit hour value of that requirement must be. It'll also tell you whether or not the course that you are being asked to take has a lab. Labs are additional sort of commitments outside of the lecture time. We will speak more specifically about that during the timetabling sessions in a couple of weeks, but again, it'll be important for you to take note of that. Anytime you have an or, an either or situation, because you'll see there are 3 different math courses listed here, it's always sort of the preferred or recommended course that will be listed first for you. However, if after you read the course description of all 3, you have a preference that you would rather do one or the other, over the other rather, it doesn't matter. Any of the combination, or rather any one of these 3 courses will fulfill that requirement. So it looks like Math 1520, Introduction to Calculus for Management, is the recommended course. I think that I want to get that done and out of the way because I did pre-cal, or I'm still actually in pre-cal as a high school student, so it's fresh in my mind. So I think I want to tackle that first. Again, if I then go back to the chart, I'll see that the next one in line is a stats course. Again, it's an or situation, stats 1000, the preferred or recommended, so I'm going to include that on my course planning chart as well. I could take it in either fall or winter. There is no prerequisite as far as a university course is concerned, so I could take it in the fall, I could take it in the winter. Maybe I'm going to balance it out. I don't necessarily want to do calculus and statistics at the same time. So here you'll see we've already filled in 4 courses, 3, 6, 9, that's 12 credit hours of courses. So we're halfway there to meeting the admission requirement, which again is 24 credit hours of the courses listed in the chart. The next few sections, what you're going to come to see are going to require that you make some decisions. The courses themselves aren't going to be explicitly laid out. And this is where we're really going to start to rely upon something called the recommended introductory courses list. Here's why reviewing the tips for choosing courses box in advance of choosing your courses is really important, because we're going to provide you with support in terms of where to go and find additional information. So the first year courses chart says we need to include 6 credit hours of courses from any one of the following departments: anthropology, history, mathematics. It looks like we've got a good selection here, but it's not giving us a specific anthropology course or a specific philosophy course. We need to go and find a list to begin to make those choices. It's also telling us that we do actually need to take our written course to be eligible to apply. So we're going to have to go and find a listing of writing course. There are some exclusions here. So again, really reviewing the fine print details and making sure that you don't include these courses as part of your writing course requirement, because ASPR will not allow those. And then our last sort of selection here is a non-business elective. In our tips for choosing courses, it tells us that a non-business elective is any 3 or 6 credit hour course taught in a faculty other than the Asper School of Business. So here you just need to be careful and make sure that you choose an elective that is not a business course. They're really wanting you to go out and explore a course from another faculty outside of business. So let's go and find some courses that fall into these categories. So I can simply click on the recommended introductory course list here, or anything again bolded in the first year courses chart is going to take me to the same place. So I'm going to click on recommended introductory course list. This is going to take us to the back section of the planning guide, and you're going to spend a lot of time in this section. It's an excellent resource. It's also the safest place for you as a first year student to go and choose courses when you have options. So anytime a program says to you, please go and choose a course from a particular faculty or go and choose an elective, this is where you're going to want to spend some time choosing that course. And the reason being is that each year, each individual faculty, this list of courses is going to be categorized by the faculty that offers the course. They send us a list of courses that are perfectly appropriate for students in their first year, and also courses that they really believe give students a really good sense of what their faculty might be like. You'll see agriculture is listed here, architecture. You don't have to be in these faculties in your first year to take courses. These are open to all first year students. We've also provided you with some information on the course list about what sort of categories some of these courses might fall into. So as an example, anytime a course fulfills a written requirement, you'll see a W. Anytime it fulfills a mathematics requirement, there will be an M beside the course. And we've also identified some other specific categories that courses can fall into. So spending some time reviewing this front end of the course list will really prepare you well to be knowledgeable about how to choose those open elective or open choices that you have. So if I remember from the first year courses chart, we needed to choose 6 credit hours of courses from history, anthropology, mathematics, psychology. As I flip through the guide, I'm able to find courses that would fall into any one of those particular subjects. After having done some research, I've actually decided that, in fact, I would like to take psychology. I find it here under the Faculty of Arts. Here it is. It's actually Psych 1200, and it is a 6 credit hour course. So I'm going to fulfill that one requirement by just taking one course, but do keep in mind that that course, because it is a spanned course, actually is going to take a place in both my fall and my winter course plan. So now I have 3 courses per term. I would be considered minimally a full-time student, but for the purposes of Asper, I need 2 more courses to be eligible. The next requirement that we remember from the first year courses chart was that we needed to choose a written course. There were a few exclusions. I wrote those down, so I'm making sure that I'm not going to be choosing the courses that they've listed there. And in fact, after some research, I've decided I'm super interested in learning more about religion. I found actually an introduction to Eastern religion. It's a 3 credit hour course. It holds a W designation, meaning it will fulfill the written requirement. So I'm going to use that to fulfill my written requirement for the purposes of my application to Asper. I love writing, so I really want to get a go on that sooner than later. So I'm going to put that into my fall term. I'm going to make notes so I don't forget that this is fulfilling my written requirement. You know, if I'm not super keen on writing or don't feel confident in my writing, you could certainly pop that to winter term and do it in the term, and likely you're going to feel a little bit more settled as a student and worked some of those kinks out. But I love writing, and it definitely is my strength, so I'm going to take that in the fall term. So we have one more requirement that we need to take a look at, and that requirement, if we remember, was a non-business elective. So again, I'm going to go back to the recommended introductory course list. I'm going to start flipping through, and I'm going to start taking a look at courses outside of the Faculty of Business or the Asper School of Business. If I go back to find Asper, just to remind you. We definitely do not want to be taking courses from the Asper School of Business to fulfill that elective. So this is really time for you to go and take anything that is of interest to you. It doesn't have to have anything to do with business. And in fact, I've decided that I'm interested in health and wellness. I'm going to be taking a course from the Faculty of Kinesiology, and I've chosen Physical Activity, Health and Wellness, Caper 1200. It's a 3 credit hour course. It's going to fit in perfect, and it's actually going to fulfill my final requirement. Put this in. So here is my completed course plan. Completed as in I have the 24 credit hours required for admission. If I did want to do a full 30, then I could certainly go back to my program planning page and put in those additional 2 courses that were recommended if I wanted to take a full course load. This is what my course plan will look like if I am a student already in business, completing my first year, or if I am a student trying to get into business after my first year. So again, you'll all be sitting in the same courses. It's just some of you have already been admitted. Others are still looking to apply.
Liza, can I jump in just with
Please do.
question here? So you really took us through the chart, the first year courses chart, took us through the tips for choosing courses, admission requirements, and you did that in record time.
Yes.
So of course, you're very familiar. This is what you do all the time. How long do you think it would take a student right from scratch to be able to come up with that course list that you just did in such a short time? Like, how long does it take the average student to do that?
Oh, I'm going to say it's going to take you hours to do that. As Ali said, I did it in lightning speed. I did it quite quickly. And, I made reference to the fact that, I had already done my research. I'd already read over the course descriptions. So this is going to take you hours. And that's just looking at your single program page. It doesn't account for all of the reading that you're going to do on the front end here that I walked you through today, some of the review that you're going to need to do to refresh your memory. But definitely this is an hours process, certainly not minutes. And again, it's because it's like doing research. You're learning something for the first time. It might require some review, and especially for a student who may be looking to keep the door open to a couple of different faculties. And so, if I can just take a couple of minutes right now, I sort of want to really showcase to you that the way that I've walked you through the business program is exactly the way that you're going to use any other program planning sheet in the guide. So some of you who may be looking at the Asper School of Business may also be interested in something like agribusiness. So the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Science offers an agribusiness degree. It's also a great option for a student interested in business. Again, I've gone back to the index page. I'm clicking on agribusiness, and here I find myself on a page that looks very similar to the Asper page. We have a first year courses chart, we have an admission box, we have a tips for choosing courses box. If I were going to be planning for agribusiness, I would begin and end that process exactly as I've walked you through at the Asper School of Business. The biggest difference, however, is that obviously you're going to find different information. It's going to be different courses possibly that make up year one, and there's going to be different admission requirements as well. And agribusiness is a great example of probably what many of our programs look like for admission. So although agribusiness has 30 credit hours that make up year one of the program, it includes some agribusiness, agriculture, some biology, economics courses, what we do learn from reviewing the admission chart is that all courses listed in the chart are required in the degree program, but may not be required for admission. And in fact, admission to agribusiness requires 24 credit hours of coursework. Any 24 credit hours of coursework. So it's incredibly open and flexible. You could really, as a student looking at a few different options, do a lot of course combination across a variety of different programs, collect 24 credit hours of courses, and still keep the door open to agribusiness to apply at the end of your first year. Please keep in mind, though, that there's no way of escaping these courses. If you do apply and get into agribusiness and you don't have all 30 credit hours listed in this chart, then it just simply means that when you do get into agribusiness, you are going to have to go back and complete some of these courses. So it is always a good idea to keep in mind and factor in what is required in the degree program. So, you know, when it says it can be any 24 credit hours, I certainly would encourage you to include as many as possible for your intended degree program. But, you know, if we notice, you know, any 24 credit hours will be these 24 credit hours that we put together for ASPER. So in theory here, by course planning for admission to ASPER, we've also kept the door open, if we change our mind, to at the end of our first year, also apply to agribusiness. I don't know, Ali, if there are any questions at the moment. No. We're going to open up the chat shortly, but I think
well, there's no questions so far. I haven't opened the floor up for questions. When you're ready for that to happen, let me know and we'll go ahead and open.
Okay, great. So, you know, I think before we send it all over to the chat and we start to answer some of your questions, I'm going to, I think, you know, assign you some homework actually. So this is sort of setting the stage for you to be a U of M student and setting expectations on what it's going to be like to be a university student. I think most of you are going to find that there is a pretty significant shift and transition from high school level studies to university level studies, and that's why we're here in the First Year Center, to help support you through that transition and to support you through successfully. But, you know, your instructors and professors are going to expect that you do the work and the research, and that, you know, you come to them with questions, which they're very open to, as we are as well. But you really need to demonstrate that you've done some of the work. It's perfectly normal and appropriate to have questions, but your question really has to be rooted in some level of knowledge to showcase that you've done the work. And so that's where the homework comes in today. Ali has provided you with a blank course planning sheet in the chat. Now I'm going to ask you between now and the week of June 22nd to go and take a look at your program planning pages and put together what you believe is the right course plan for you based on your target program or programs. Always a great idea to have a backup of courses as well. So even if you are just going to be taking 24 credit hours, you could certainly still include more as backup for the time when you are going to be timetabling. It's always nice to have a few courses sort of in your back pocket in the event that one fits into your timetable better than the other. But nevertheless, what we're going to ask you to do is bring this course plan with you to the next timetable and registration sessions, because then we're going to show you how you take this course plan and create your own customized timetable and get yourself ready for registration. So I think at the moment I'm probably going to stop there and take the next few minutes to have Ali maybe open the chat and see if there are some questions that we can answer for you, unless you had some final remarks, Ali.
No, I just wanted to let everyone know again about, in the chat, there's a link to the to this fillable form that we've created. I've also included a link, umanitoba.ca/admission/undergraduate next steps register. That is where you're going to be able to find a recording of this session. So if you have questions as you're developing your course plan, you can refer back to this session, and then you'll be able to create that course plan on your own, and then bring that to the next session on the 22nd. Tina has done some good work here, and she has put some common questions that we've come across that we answered this morning. So if you need access to your UMNet ID, signum.ca, that's in, or signum.umanitoba.ca. and you need to wait 48 hours after you've accepted your offer to be able to claim your UMNet ID. If you have questions about your admission status, you need to connect with the admissions officer, admissions@umanitoba.ca, and their phone number is there in the chat. And then for communicating with an academic advisor, if you want to meet with an academic advisor, we're going to actually ask you to come up with your course plan. So in order to be able to get an appointment with an academic advisor, we actually want to see that course plan. As you can imagine, you know, we're managing things virtually, and you know, we've got thousands of students who are starting. We want to talk to every single student, but it is not possible for us to answer the question, what courses should I take in my first year? We can't answer that question for individual students, and that's why we made the first year planning guide. That's specifically why we made it, because we know you don't know how to choose your courses. We know you're unsure, and the advisors have spent long hours working to make the first year planning guide usable so that you can follow along, do exactly the kinds of things that Liza did today, and you will be able to come up with your course plan. So having said that, I have opened the floor for chat questions. If you have any questions, just feel free and type it. That's a great question. Can one course be used to fill two different requirements?
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, again, it really depends upon which requirement you're talking about, but typically, you know, it's a difficult question to answer. If we were to use ASPR as the example, to fulfill your written requirement, it must be its own dedicated course. So you can't use that course to also fulfill one of the, say, additional subjects. You really need to have its own, it really needs to be its own course. But again, the chart will detail for you exactly which credit hour value you're needing to fulfill as it relates to that particular course. So generally speaking, I would say the answer to that is no, but again, it may be slightly specific to the program that you're taking a look at. And again, with your course plan put together, that would be an excellent question to ask the advisor. But again, if you need 24 credit hours to apply to your program, then you need to have 24 unique credit hours of coursework.
Thank you. I'm going to just keep going down and sort of pull some common questions.
Sure.
And then we'll get answering those ways. So are there ways to get extra credit? I don't know what that means, but students are limited to 5 courses per term. I'm not going to be able to answer questions about an undecided student. Sorry, we actually have a session coming up for undecided students. So you can attend one of those sessions or take a look at that recording.
I do see a couple of questions here, Allie, about University One and other courses the same for me as others. Absolutely. Yeah. Whether you come in through University One, you come in directly through science, you come in through arts, that recommended introductory course list plus each and every course listed in that first year courses chart is accessible to you, whether you're a U1, a science, an ASPR, an arts student. So what I showcased to you today is what you will be doing regardless of the program that you currently have been admitted into the university from. Most students come into their first year through University One. So, you know, you're certainly in sort of common company. So yes, the first year planning guide is for all first year students.
Thank you. I also see some questions about how long it would take to complete a degree program, depending on how many courses you're taking per year. And so really you have to finish the requirement of the degree. So if the degree requires 120 credit hours, you have to complete 120 credit hours. In fact, most students, they don't finish that in 4 years. It's called a 4-year degree because if you take the maximum number of courses allowable per term, which is 15 credit hours per term or 30 credit hours per year, it would take you 4 years to finish that 120 credit hour degree. But most students do not finish a 4-year degree in 4 years. Most students would probably take 5 or 6 years to finish a 4-year degree. So you just keep plugging along until you actually have collected collected those 120 credit hours.
It looks
Questions
like there's a
about how to
question.
connect with an academic advisor. Certainly email us. It's FY Center. I'm going to put that in the chat at umanitoba.ca. So that's how you can connect with an academic advisor. Remember,
and I think I just want to say, sorry to interject there, Ali, just, you know, people asking to meet with an advisor, please take your time with the guide. You know, you really want to review your program. You really want to absorb as much of the information as you can, so that when you do have a meeting with an advisor, you're really making the best use of that meeting with the advisor. There's no rush per se. We've definitely got some time. Registration for new students doesn't begin until July 14th. So, you know, you have more than a month to do this really critical and necessary planning. The registration in the courses is absolutely the easiest part of this. So to rush towards that really is not going to result in success. I can promise you that for sure. So take your time. You know, it might take you a couple of reads on your program planning page. That's not unusual. This is all.
Oh, Liza is sort of cutting out a little bit there, so I'm not quite sure if she can hear me. But I'm going to just keep going answering some questions that I've come across in the chat. So there was a couple questions about co-op. You need to contact the co-op office that's responsible for that program. So if you're interested in computer science co-op, then, you know, umanitoba.ca is really the best place to start. And you can use the search function. Oh, I think Liza might be coming back to us.
Am I back? Am I back?
Oh, there you're back. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
It's telling me I have an unstable connection here, so could be that I have my video on. I think I just want to readdress a University One question before we sort of end for the day, because I know, you know, it often provides some confusion for students. You know, it says here, University One, is it in the first year planning guide? University One is simply your entry point into the University of Manitoba. You will be planning your courses in your first year as a University One student based on where you eventually think you want to go. So there are no courses that you must take as a University One student. It really is just your opportunity to begin your university studies without fully committing just yet to a program or a faculty. So the courses that you take, to answer your question, are going to be the courses that you find on your target program planning page. So you're in University One, you want to get into agriculture, you're going to course plan based on what the agriculture page says. So I hope that that clarifies a little bit for some of you out there who might be a little bit confused about that.
Thanks, Liza. A couple other questions about summer. There's actually quite a few questions about summer registration. We are not talking about summer registration today, only because we don't know what summer registration next year is going to look like. Students admitted in fall term or admitted for fall, you are not eligible to take courses this summer. The summer schedule doesn't come out until March. We're not going to address the summer here. This is actually not something you should be thinking about right now. Frankly, you need to be focusing your attention on choosing the courses that you need for fall and winter term. I think, I can't remember now if I said this before, but there was a couple questions about co-op. Co-op is run by very specific departments. So you need to connect with the co-op program that you're looking at. So oh yeah, I did say this. If you want a computer science co-op, then you have to talk to the co-op, the computer science co-op folks. So this fall, will classes be online or not? That's a big question that we have not really addressed. This fall, all courses will be offered remotely. So there will be no in-person classes at the university. However, that doesn't mean you will be in true distance education courses, which, you know, are more flexible. Many of the courses that you register for are going to have specific lecture times similar to what we have here. So you'll see when we dive into the more the things about timetabling and actually registering. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can tell what sort of format your course will be, whether it's an alternative learning format, whether it's a distance course, etc. So that's the place to find that out. Yeah, co-op you can't happen. You don't take co-op right away, so that's not something you need to worry about.
No, and the Asper School of Business has a really strong co-op program if people are asking about it as it relates to Asper, as do many programs or faculties. And to Ali's point, you don't need to factor that in right now in your first year course planning. It will be something after your first year that you can connect with the individual office or faculty about. And again, you can connect with us throughout the year and we can make a referral, but nothing that you need to factor in for the planning that you need to do between now and your registration day.
Yeah, there's another question about external university credit. So if you've taken AP credit or IB credit in high school, any other post-secondary, if you have submitted an application, you're actually asked in the application process if you have attended any other post-secondary institution. And if you have, you need to provide your transcript. Failing to do so and being dishonest about that is actually academic fraud, so I do not recommend that. But I think, you know, if you have those transcripts, they need to be sent to the admissions office. And we've provided that email a couple times in the chat and through the presentation. So I think that, you know, I'm sort of scrolling through. I think we've answered all the questions that we had.
Was someone able to answer Nathaniel's question about dual credit calculus? And I'm not sure if anyone was able to answer that, but Nathaniel, again, sort of to what Ali just said, you'll want to connect with the admissions office, because again, that will likely come through as the calculus course, which means you have completed it already and don't necessarily need to complete it again in your first year, but you'll want to check in with the admissions office and make sure that you noted that on your application. Otherwise, it won't transfer over.
Great. So if there are no further questions, I will say thank you to everybody. Again, we've mentioned a couple of times, coming up on June 22nd is when our timetabling and registration session will take place. So bring your course plan with you and we'll dive right into registration next time. So I want to thank everyone for being with us today and enjoy this cloudy, icky, yucky Winnipeg weather for those of you who are here in Winnipeg with us. And we'll hope to talk to all of you again soon. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.